If you've clicked on this video, you already know what you're getting into, so let's go ahead and get started. This was a one-day project that, as of when this commentary is being uploaded, I started and ended this video last Saturday, and then I uploaded the Monday after that. I wanted to make a quick video with some of my own gameplay because it's been about 6 months since I've done that, just because I've been doing a bunch of commission work. So I wanted to put out something really quick just to get it out there and, help purge some of my gameplay because I have so much of it sitting around that I just want to get rid of. But this is all 1v1 stuff and mostly button combo type things. So the first third of the video is all Halo Reach button combos, stuff you've seen before from me. And towards the middle here, these are all Halo 2 button combos that I've also done before, but not a whole lot. And this button combo has actually been patched from MCC. So this is the last time you will probably see this button combo from me. There are other ways to do it, but it's not quite the same. And then the final third of the video is, again, more creative type clips, but it's all been done before, like this barricade launch and the Dutchie nade and barrel launch clips and a sticky launch. So, nothing too exciting, but better than regular no scopes across the map, because if you've seen my 1v1 videos before, I literally have thousands of those. So, starting off with the editing though, this is a plugin. You may have seen it before from other editors. I know Xander's a huge fan of this one. It's called Sapphire Warp Chroma. And I just used it to zoom into frame and get it started. I really like to avoid having an intro when I can, so I just jump straight into the song on this one. But at the halfway point before the shot actually takes place, I wanted there to still be something dynamic happening. So it pops into frame by zooming in and feathering out to the alpha channel on the outside here, and then it's rotating in as well. And then I left like a 5% rotation to keyframe from the middle point when it's fully zoomed in, and then to kind of reset to 0. So it gives you some, visual discomfort, and then it pops into place once the shot actually happens. So there's something going on during that time, and it's not just idle space. And then I did some continuity transitions, which I've done this before too. So have other editors. It's a simple theater trick where you match your flying camera perspective to the first person perspective of the clip. And then you can press Y to snap it to the character model. So I have someone standing on street, and then it just snaps to them. So this isn't me animating the camera. This is just pressing Y and then clicking the right joystick as it flies in. And I do this a couple times because there's a pickup beat in the song if you listen. Before that hard slap, the pickup beat I wanted to sync with this continuity transition. So I do that multiple times throughout the video. And it's also nice and quick, so I don't have to spend a lot of time on the angles themselves, but still keeping the clips continuous when I can. And this is a little bit of an odd idea that I'm not sure if I'm going to find a way to refine this or just do the same thing later down the line. But I wanted to try this continuity transition between two maps. So I emulated the motion of the camera snapping to the player between two different maps and then just cross-dissolving it. So here we start with first perspective, and then here's the third person perspective from the flying camera. And then it's snapping to me standing right here with active camo so that you can't actually see me, but I can animate to it. And then I also had a clip on Sanctuary, which starts right here, but I took the flying camera and I have it standing out kind of by snipe ramp at Hut on the red side of the map, and then it snaps through the wall and goes to the player. You can kind of see his legs there. It's a weird glitch of theater. But when it's played really fast, it just kind of looks like it snaps from Zealot to Sank. But when you play it frame by frame, it's not super clean. So I might find a way to make that look better in the future. But the idea of snapping between maps is like, oh, well, that saves me some time. A lot of other times I'm a weirdo and I always find some way to mask the map into the next map. And masking takes a bunch of time. So screw that. But more continuity, I get the button combo on Trucchio. And then the next clip is actually right here. This is just a jump cut, which some people may have noticed it when they watched it, but when played in full speed, it's pretty close. So that one I was able to make continuous without an angle. And this was kind of a system of reversals. It kept going back from the beginning of Ring 2 once the next clip ended. So here, this clip ends right here. And then just a small continuity thing, again, with the flying camera. And same thing here, just some snapping continuity with the theater tool. And right here, there's a very, very faint effect. This is actually a particle illusion thing. If we go into Fusion, all I did was, I'll let this load real quick. There we go. This is pretty simple. I could have used Mocha's built-in tracking system, but that seems to really bog down the software when I do it. So I just did some manual tracking on this. For the most part, I have some frames that are actually tracked at the planar tracker using the translation motion model only. And then after this point, it loses track of the player. So I just keyframe it by hand. And it's just a small particle thing. That's all it looks like. And I used a blend mode. I think it was overlay or screen, just to make it very subtle. I didn't want it to really stand out. I just wanted to motion track something to the character because I felt like it, I guess. But continuing on from that, just a quick sapphire edge raise. And then I guess I didn't really show much because I transitioned out of it, but after the vocals change, you can hear there's a little glissando going upwards. And I kind of make the raise zoom in at that part, but you don't really see it because the new blue transition gets in the way. And again, this is just some basic, syncing and accenting type stuff. So here, I just synced on the beat. I qualified this portion of the wall that's yellow. It was pretty easy to qualify because it's a very isolated color. And then hue shifted it, keyframed it back to 0. And then I got the snipe. And I was debating on doing some more swish transitions like this in various directions, but I didn't want to be too repetitive. So I did this one. And every time I do a swish transition, I try and match the motion of what's happening in the next clip. So in this case, I'm jumping up. So I do a swish going down. And this is just another qualifier thing. So, my lazy little masking. Honestly, the fringing isn't too bad on the leaves and all that. And there's some blended lighting on here because it includes the reflections of the sniper. So that's kind of cool. But the gamer tag, however, looks really bad with the qualification. And I just didn't clean it up because I don't give a fuck about my own videos. Moving on from here, though, this was a transition that I do all the time. Trucchio always makes fun of me for doing something to a plasma pistol shot every time I have it in a video. So I thought this time, you know what? I'm not going to touch the plasma pistol, but I am going to do something with the transition. So I faded in over a period of 3 frames, 3 or 5. Yeah, 3 frames. And I use that as a continuity piece because it just kind of bleeds into the first clip. So that draws your attention. and it's part of the second clip, so it's just there. And this is just a Luma key outside of it that fades to normalization after the fact. The blue fire is Universe Ecto used with OFX Alpha. I've done that in various videos. I think specifically I mentioned it in Death Machine 3. It's at the beginning of the final song by John Hopkins. Has that angle like up here, and then it hits that bass tone that's like red and blue, that sort of thing. It's the same effect. And this is where the button combos start. And I wanted to kind of combine this with the song slightly. This is just kind of a headcanon thing. It's not anything that people were expected to pick up on when watching it. But if you listen to the song itself, the notes are very off-kilter. I wouldn't even say that it's necessarily a minor tone versus a major tone from the rest of the song. It's just some notes are literally off pitch and designed to sound off. And I wanted this part of the video to be a little off. So the off part is the clips. It's like, well, kind of weird, just like shooting people with these ghost bullets, essentially. And then to add a visual unease to it, I added this adjustment clip that gradually creates a zoom blur and it keyframes to red over time. Until the very last clip where you can like really see the zoom blur and it's like really red. Like if I disable this, you can see the difference. It's just meant to be a gradual thing with the song, and then it resets once the song changes back to a more regular tonality. So you can see how that kind of worked, I guess, doing some thematic blending, if you want to call that. Right here, this is kind of the closest I could get to a continuity transition. I'm not going to bother with Blue Trainer because turning angles are so choppy and ugly with it, even if you're using a controller. It doesn't look good. But I did do a zoom transition that angles here because that's where the next clip takes place. So it's the closest to continuity I could really get. And then I plain air tracked some game over text on here because this clip is a game-winning kill. And then I was willing to do a Halo 2 continuity transition here because I could just walk on the ground for it. So I could turn as smoothly as I wanted. I originally wanted to 3D camera track something into this turn. Maybe something would be floating above this glass or maybe around over here. But I've had some difficulty doing 3D camera tracks on lockout because snow is kind of like noise, and noise throws off the camera stall for a virtual camera. So until I figure out how to get around that without masking everything manually, because I'm not going to take the time for that, it's kind of hard to do 3D camera tracks on lockout. And then this last clip was just a sticky launch, and I added a little lens flare that tracks with the grenade. Or lens reflection, I should say. I probably overuse this effect. I feel like I do it all the time. And it has a little fade to white here. Let's see, doing this does have a 3D camera track, and there's a few components to it. First, I just get the camera tracker, and then I have my Merge 3D for my 3D space. But for my text in this case, I didn't really make it too flashy. I just kind of wanted to blend it into the background. So the most I did was give it a directional light, which is relatively colored the same as the environment. I added a little bit of extrusion. You can see the black shadow there that comes from the directional light. And I added a texture as well. Now what I should have done is added a bump map to this text because it looks really flat. Even though this is all flat too, this looks extremely flat. Like, I should have at least just added a bump map to it to make it stand out a little more in the same way that the map's environment does. But again, it's just one of my own 1v1 videos. It doesn't really matter. I also didn't do a shadow catcher because this is not fun to deal with. Because then I'd have to project it onto a varying plane on the ground, and I don't care if it's my video. This is just 2 sets of planar track text, and my idea behind this is I wanted to include angles from games that were in the video. So that's Halo 2, Halo 3, and Halo Reach. And I started with a Halo 2 angle. I did a Halo 3 angle. And then I kind of wanted to do a thing where I transitioned from Halo 3 pit to Halo Reach pit. But the proportions are different, so it doesn't look good. It's not like the difference between Zanzibar and Last Resort, where you can almost have a seamless transition between the two. That's what I was wanting to go for, but it didn't work out so well. So I just planar tracked some text, gave it some blending with an overlay blend mode. I don't know why, but I decided to color this yellow a little more than it actually is. If you take a look here, I just, gave some extra color. I guess I just felt like it. There was no real reasoning to it. And I do have the Halo's Back logo at the end here, mostly to fill up space. I don't know if I'm actually submitting this for the competition because a lot of my other commission projects, people want me to put their videos in, and you can only do 5 submissions for the competition. But the way this was tracked is actually an accident. So I did a standard planar track in Fusion. And then I just did a planar transform. I color corrected it to hue shift over time and then reset to 0 once it hits the sync point. But what's weird is it's offset from the ground. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's because I didn't corner pin it to set the real perspective to size ratio. Instead, I just planar transformed it. So what happened is this logo is full size and it's following the motion of the ground, but because of its size, it looks like it's floating above the ground, which makes it look like I did a 3D camera track, but it's really just a planar track in 2D. So I kind of liked the way it looked and I left it that way. Oh yeah, for this 3D text as well, I was going to credit the actual name of the song, but it's an Arabic song, and DaVinci Resolve does not support Arabic fonts. So it would have been a bunch of squares, basically. So I just did music by Ninette Tayeb. What else is there? Oh, there's the color correction, or the color grade, I guess I should say. The biggest things I wanted was for it to stand out, have a bit of color, but still a bit of a darker tone. So I mostly did that just by hue shifting. So for example, if I bring it to my timeline node, literally the only 2 things in this color grade are hue shift and contrast. So this is before and after. So the contrast will help make the shadows and highlights stand out more, kind of make it pop a little. And the hue shift just gives everything color without actually having to manually color things. And because I wasn't pushing anything in the highlights and shadows, it doesn't introduce any sort of chroma noise. So I don't have to denoise anything. I didn't have to additionally sharpen. I did consider it, but I think it looks sharp enough to where it's clean, it's good to go. I originally had hue set to 60, but this made it a little more pink than I wanted. I'm okay with pink, but it's a little bit too much. So I brought it back down to 55. 50 is the default for perspective. Aside from the video end of things, I actually did a lot of audio work in this video. So I've created an example timeline for reference in here. And I did some things in a new software that I haven't used before. It's an alternative replacement to a tool I've been using called RX7, which is developed by Isotope. The thing I'm using now is by Steinberg, and it's called Spectral Layers. And if I open the music itself in Spectral Layers, I'll show you what I did. So what you're looking at is a spectral view of the audio. The way this works is frequencies are shown vertically, the amplitude is shown by brightness, and then time is still represented horizontally. So this is also a composite view, so it kind of helps things stick out a little more. But for perspective, I think the song started right here. Okay, so there's a couple things that I wanted to get rid of when I was dealing with the song. And the first is this tone. Listen to this tone right here. It sounds like a whistle. I can actually isolate that and delete it, which is what I did because I wasn't a huge fan of it in the song. So if I draw right here, and I can actually play it back. So there's the frequency that I don't want. What I can do is attenuate it, which basically means to average it out with the audio around it. So I do one of these, and it's gone. Now there's a few other harmonic frequencies to this tone, so I also had to remove those. Oh, my drawing skills are a little poor at the moment. And one more. Okay, and now the tones are gone. So if you listen to it, whereas this is with the tone, and again without it. So that's just how I would rather have the song sound. So I did some editing. And the other thing I did with the song is if you listen to the end of it here, let me actually go back to the original timeline for this for perspective. Here's the end, and you can see some modifications in my timeline as well. So what was done here is this phrase repeated twice. So I cut it in half and then just let it jump cut to the repeating phrase at the end. But the difference is that this normally has lyrics. So how did I remove the lyrics? Well, you can do that in the software I was showing. So if I go back to the example timeline, here it is with lyrics. So if we go back to spectral layers, and for processing's sake, let's get rid of the rest of the song. Oh, actually, I need to delete it. There we go. Okay. So the way this works is there's a couple machine learning algorithms in the software, and one of them is to unmix stems. So you can isolate the song by vocals, piano, drums, bass, and other. Other is usually guitar and other string type instruments. So if I unmix stems, you can see my layers of audio here. And here's the vocals all on their own. So if I wanted to play this back, I could just mute the vocals. Pretty convenient, right? So it's part of the reason I have been using this tool so much lately is because it's really cool and it makes things like that super easy. There's a couple other audio things I did in this video too. So let me use those as examples. If I go back to the original timeline, there is a brute shot, beam rifle, and a jetpack. I remember making modifications too. So the jetpack right here. all I did on here is I did some EQ to lower the high frequencies because high frequencies stand out to the human ear a lot more. I wanted to retain like the rumbliness of the jetpack, but not have such a shrill high end. So to keep the volume mixed in properly with everything else, I just EQ'd a little bit. So now it's there, but it's not as piercingly loud. It's just kind of faint in the background. And also going to this beam rifle shot here. What do you notice is missing about this audio? There's no double click. See, if I go back to the master timeline, and listen to this, there's 2 clicks as the beam rifle reslots itself to go to the next shot. So how do I get rid of that? Well, with the magic of spectral layers again, let's bounce it over to our DAW. And with some audio attenuation, I can do it again. So you can see the clicks. You see these transients that just kind of pop out of the spectral view here. I just take a selection and heal it. Well, there's one of them gone, and then I can just attenuate the other. Oh, actually, let's expand this a little bit on the left. Oops. Okay. And now, if you listen to it, it's pretty much gone. I could do a little bit better. Now it's really gone. So just like that, I've gotten rid of unwanted clicks. And I had the same thing with the brute shot. During that launch on the barricade, you hear that little click? Well, I wanted to do the same thing here because I just didn't like that sound. So if we bounce it into spectral layers, yet again, I can see it right away. I haven't even played it yet, and I know that this is the click. You see that? So I take this and I attenuate it. And now, okay, well, I can still hear it a little bit, so let's try that again. So that's just about gone. I did a little more cleanly in the main project, but you get the point. Aside from doing stuff in spectral layers, I did do some other work just within Resolve for some audios, mostly the plasma grenade, I think. If we head back to the original timeline, there are various grenades in use that aren't directly in front of the player, so I wanted to match that accordingly. So this frag grenade, for example, is panned to the left because it explodes directly to the left of the player. So adding a little bit of realism to direction. Same thing with this plasma grenade. This is a little bit to the left of the player, so you can hear it here. Still relatively in the front, so it's all about proportions and making sure it's realistic. Other than that, this was actually the first time I tried rendering a video with motion blur that wasn't RSMB. In a Discord server that has some other montagers and editors, I had them do kind of a blind test on different motion blur algorithms. One was RSMB and one was Resolve Studio's motion blur. And for 60 FPS, they actually said they liked Resolve's better. So this video was done with a final pass in Resolve's motion blur. Because I always put motion blur on all of my Halo tages. But other than that, I think that's about everything for this video. If there's any other videos of mine that you'd like me to go over and break them down, go ahead and leave a comment, and I will consider getting around to it.